Chapter 2. Residue. Clara didn't move for a long moment. The phone lay face down on her desk, like an accusation she'd chosen not to read aloud. Outside her office, the precinct shifted into day. Footsteps. Doors. The low, constant talk of people building narratives out of noise. Clara kept her hands flat on the desktop until she trusted them again. Then she stood and shut the blinds. Not because anyone was watching, because she didn't want to feel watched. She pulled the screenshot back up. The ward study, frozen at 2:14 a.m. Evelyn's posture too composed for death. The bowl placed with care. The lamp's warm circle making the rest of the room look like it didn't matter. Clara enlarged the image again, forcing her eyes to stop being human and become procedural. Bookshelf, empty space, shadow. There, the pale corner, the sliver of card. She zoomed until the pixels broke into colored grit. She couldn't read anything, but she could see the 3 strokes more clearly now. Parallel lines in thick ink, like marks made fast and hard. A tally without a count, a sign without a key. She lowered the phone and picked up the landline. "Halpern?" she said when he answered. "Get back to Maple Crest. Now." A beat. "We're already on our way to the canvas follow-up." "Good. Go inside the study before it gets cleaned. There's something near the bookshelf. Right side, behind the books. It may be a card. Don't touch it until evidence tech is there." His voice sharpened. "You see it on scene?" "I saw it in a photo." Silence again, this time full. "Photo from who?" he asked. "Unknown," Clara said. "We'll talk in person." She hung up before her voice could betray her. Then she called cyber. "Monroe," she said when the young analyst picked up. "I need a trace on a number that texted me. Unknown. Likely burner. I want tower pings if you can pull them, and any carrier information." "Send it," he said, still half asleep. She forwarded the number in the screenshot. She didn't forward the feeling. At 9:20 a.m., the ME's preliminary report landed on her desk, with the sound of paper pretending to be neutral. Clara read it standing. Cause of death: exsanguination due to incised wound to the neck. No indication of sexual assault. No defensive wounds noted. Sedative suspected. Pending toxicology. Sedative. That explained the calm. The open eyes that weren't alarmed. The lack of movement. The trust, or the resignation, chemically assisted. She sat down and looked at her caseboard. Blank for now, except for a single photo of Evelyn Ward, printed from her license file and taped near the center. Evelyn's eyes in the photo were ordinary, the kind of eyes that belonged to people who bought birthday gifts early and returned library books. Clara turned her gaze to the notebook evidence tag number. "I remember." Written until it became prayer. Her doorframe darkened. Halpern stepped in, sleeves rolled up, jaw tight. "They found it," he said. Clara didn't ask what it was. She felt the answer like a splinter under skin. "What is it?" she said anyway. "A card," Halpern confirmed. "Tucked behind the books, exactly where you said. Evidence tech bagged it. No visible prints. Front side had those 3 lines. He mimed them in the air." "Backside?" Clara asked. Halpern hesitated. That alone was information. "1 sentence," he said, in black marker. Clara watched him carefully. "What sentence?" Halpern's eyes flicked to the closed blinds, then back to her. "You always liked quiet houses." Clara felt the words enter her body like cold water, not because the sentence was threatening, because it was specific, because it reached past the ward's suburban life and touched something else, something older, something that didn't belong on an evidence card. Her throat tightened once. She kept her face blank. "Bagged and logged?" she asked. "Already," Halpern said. "And Monroe." "Not in the hallway," she said, cutting him off before he could turn concern into a spectacle. He held her gaze a moment longer, then nodded once. Doorbell footage came in, he said. Most of the night is nothing, but there's a gap. How big? 13 minutes, from 2:06 to 2:19. Clara's spine stiffened. That's not a glitch, she said. That's what I said, Halpern replied.
IT says it could be a signal drop.
But it's neat, controlled. A gap that fit the timestamp in the texted photo like a hand into a glove. Any motion captured around the gap? Clara asked. Nothing before, nothing after. But the system registered motion at 2:05 and 2:20, like it saw something and then forgot. Clara pictured the flicker on her phone, the ghost angle behind the image, the reflection in the glass, something outside the window, watching. Pull the raw file, Clara said. Not the app export. I want metadata. I want to know if it was edited. Halpern nodded. Already requested. And the husband? She asked. Still at the station. Lawyered up about 20 minutes ago. Clara's mouth flattened. Of course he did. He asked about you, Halpern added. Clara looked up. He asked if you were the one who came to the house, Halpern said. Said you looked familiar. Clara waited, expression neutral. Halpern leaned slightly forward. Do you have any history with these people? No, Clara said. It was true in the legal sense, in the clean sense, in the sense that counted. Halpern studied her as if he could see the seam where she'd stitched herself shut. Okay, he said finally. What do you need from me? Get me Evelyn's full phone dump, Clara said. Texts, calls, social, email, all of it. We're getting warrants. And talk to the school, Clara said. Her students, her colleagues. I want to know if anyone saw her acting strange, if she mentioned memory, if she mentioned her brother. Halpern hesitated at the last phrase. Then he nodded again and left without another word. Clara exhaled once, slow. She opened the drawer and took out the private notebook again. She stared at the 3 ink strokes she'd drawn. She didn't add anything. Not yet. Evelyn Ward's school sat 5 miles away in a part of town that still had brick sidewalks and pretended it wasn't the same city. Clara parked in the visitor lot. The sky was a flat pale gray that made everything look like it had been rinsed. Inside, the office smelled like copier toner and disinfectant. The principal met her with practiced sympathy. Mid-50s, soft hands, too much eye contact. We're all devastated, he said. Evelyn was beloved. Beloved was another phrase Clara disliked. It made a person sound safe. I need to see her classroom, Clara said. He blinked. Of course. Right this way. They walked down a corridor lined with student art and motivational posters, the kind of hallway that promised futures, not endings. Evelyn's classroom door was shut. A small laminated sign hung beside it. Room 214, Ms. Ward. The principal unlocked it. The room smelled faintly of dry erase markers and dust. Desks sat in groups of 4. A stack of graded papers waited on the front table, red ink visible in the margins like small wounds. On the whiteboard, an unfinished sentence. Memory is a... The rest was erased, the ghost of letters still visible if you looked at it sideways. Clara stepped inside slowly. The walls held student essays pinned with cheerful borders, quotes from poets. A bulletin board titled, What We Carry. On Evelyn's desk sat a mug with a chipped rim and a framed photo of the same 2 kids Clara had seen in the hallway pictures at Maple Crest. Clara looked around without touching. Was she here late yesterday? She asked. The principal nodded. Yes. She stayed after the final bell. She does that often, especially at the start of term. Anyone see her leave? Clara asked. Not that I know of. Clara turned her gaze to the bookshelf in the classroom. Paperbacks, curriculum guides, a few personal novels. One space stood empty. Not as obvious as the one in the study, less curated, more lived in, but still a clean gap. Clara stepped closer. A thin outline of dust marked where something had been. "What was here?" Clara asked. The principal frowned. I don't know." Clara didn't look at him. "Was she reading anything recently? Assigning anything new?" He spread his hands helplessly. "Teachers have so many materials. I don't keep track of their personal books." Clara glanced back at the whiteboard. "Memory is a..." She pictured Evelyn writing "I remember" until her hand tired. She pictured a bowl placed like a ritual. She pictured an empty shelf space in 2 different rooms. A book removed, intentionally. A book that mattered. Clara's phone buzzed. A message from Cyber. Carrier. Prepaid. Number activated 3 days ago. Last ping, 2:18 near Maple Crest. No subscriber info. 3 days. The killer had prepared, and they'd been close enough to the house at 2:18 to send the photo, or at least to route it through that area. Clara slipped the phone back into her pocket. "Who has keys to this room?" she asked the principal. "Custodial," he said. "Admin. Substitute coordinator. Names," Clara said. He faltered, then nodded quickly. "I'll have a list printed." "And I need her staff file," Clara said. "Any complaints? Any disciplinary notes? Anything about her brother?" The principal's expression tightened. "Her brother died years ago. That's not relevant." Clara looked at him. Her gaze wasn't aggressive. It didn't have to be. It was simply fixed, and most people couldn't stand to be seen that clearly. "Everything is relevant," she said. He swallowed. "Of course." Clara left the classroom and walked back down the hallway. 2 students passed her, laughing too loudly, alive in the careless way teenagers were. One of them glanced at Clara's badge and stopped laughing mid-breath. Clara didn't blame her. She moved past them without slowing. At the precinct, Daniel Ward waited in interview 2. Clara watched him through the glass. He sat straighter than he had at the kitchen table. His hair was combed. His face had been washed. In the light, his grief looked cleaner, more presentable. A man who had decided to perform coherence. A public defender sat beside him, not looking at Clara. The defender's tie was worse than Halpern's. Clara entered and took the chair opposite. Daniel stared at her as if she'd returned from a place he couldn't go. "Detective Monroe?" the lawyer said. "My client is willing to answer some questions, but we want to be clear about the nature of this conversation." Clara nodded once. "Of course," she said. "Daniel, why did you say I looked familiar?" Daniel's jaw moved. "I didn't mean..." He glanced at his lawyer, then back. "You were at the house this morning, but you also..." "I don't know. I've seen you somewhere." Clara held his gaze. "Where?" she asked. He shook his head, frustrated. "I can't place it." Clara didn't offer him options. She slid a printed still from the doorbell camera across the table. It was a frame from 2:05 a.m., a blur of motion near the front door, nothing fully formed. "There's a gap in your footage," Clara said. 13 minutes. "Do you know why?" Daniel's eyes widened. "No. Why would I..." Clara didn't let him finish. "Your wife was killed in that window." His face drained. "I didn't do that," he said. The words came out too fast, too defensive. Clara waited. The lawyer put a hand on Daniel's forearm. "Detective, we've told you..." "Daniel," Clara said again, ignoring the lawyer without making it a battle. "Was your wife taking anything? Sleep aids? Anxiety medication? Anything she wouldn't want you to know about?" Daniel blinked hard. "No." Clara leaned slightly forward. "We have reason to believe she was sedated, Clara said. That means whoever killed her had time. They didn't have to fight her. Daniel swallowed. His eyes flicked away. Evelyn didn't like pills, he said. That wasn't an answer. It was a preference. People died behind preferences all the time. Who else had access to your house? Clara asked. Daniel rubbed his bagged hands unconsciously against his thighs, then stopped when he realized what he was doing. Cleaner, he said. Marisol. And my sister has a key. For emergencies. Name? Kim. Clara wrote it down. Any recent visitors? She asked. No. Any recent conflicts? Clara asked again, slower. Anyone your wife was afraid of? Daniel's eyes filled again, but this time his gaze held something else behind the grief. Anger, maybe. Or shame. She was upset lately, he admitted, but she wouldn't tell me why. What did she say? Clara asked. Daniel's throat worked. She said she was remembering things she didn't want to remember. Clara's pen stopped. The room felt suddenly too quiet. Even the lawyer stopped shifting. Clara kept her voice even. What things? Daniel shook his head, helpless. She wouldn't say. She'd wake up in the night and stare at the ceiling. And sometimes she'd go into the study and write, like she was trying to get it out. Right, I remember. Clara let a beat pass. Did she mention her brother? Clara asked. Daniel's eyes flicked up sharply. No? Clara studied him. Are you sure? He clenched his jaw. She said he was dead. That's all. Clara leaned back slightly. The lawyer cleared his throat. Detective, I think we're done for today. Clara didn't argue. She stood, gathered her notes. At the door, she turned back. Daniel, she said. He looked at her. If someone asked you a question, Clara said, one you didn't want to answer, what would you do? Daniel frowned. What kind of question? Clara watched his face settle into confusion. Then she nodded once, as if satisfied. She left without explaining. In her office again, Clara shut the door and stood with her back against it for a moment. Not to rest. To anchor. Her phone buzzed. Another text from the burner number. No image this time. Just words. You saw it. Good. Clara stared at the screen. Her thumb hovered over the reply field. She could type 100 things. Who are you? How did you get in? What do you want? Stop. Instead, she typed 4 words, each one chosen like it cost something. What do you remember? She didn't hit send. Her hand stayed still. Outside her office, someone called her name. Distant. Halpern. Another case. Another noise. Clara erased the text without sending it. She turned the phone off. Then she opened the private notebook again. On the next line beneath the 3 strokes, she wrote the sentence from the evidence card. You always liked quiet houses. Her handwriting was steady. That was the worst part. She closed the notebook and locked the drawer. In the silence that followed, she noticed something she hadn't noticed all day. Her apartment key was not in her pocket. It wasn't on her desk. It wasn't on her keyring. For one brief, blank second, she couldn't remember where she'd last seen it. Then memory returned, slow and unwilling. Her key had been on the nightstand, next to the phone. Before the call at 4:12 a.m., Clara stared at the drawer handle, her face still composed, and felt, for the first time since the case began, something like fear. Not dramatic, not loud. Just a thin, precise understanding. Someone had been close enough to her to touch what she left unguarded. And they had done it quietly. That was Chapter 2 of Echoes of the Past, part of the Clara Monroe series. If you're following the investigation, the next chapter continues right where this one leaves off. I'll see you there.